Hi, friends. Welcome to the Inclusive Storytelling Podcast. I'm your host, Ashwini Prasad, and today we're speaking with Zarna Garg, who is this amazing comedian who is a TikTok sensation with over 30 million views of her hilarious comedy that speaks to representation. And she got into comedy later in life, and she is just thriving. She has a headlining show over at Caroline's, the world-renowned Caroline's on Broadway in New York City, called Sorry Not Sorry, and she's an award-winning screenwriter with a feature film and TV show in development. She's also recently won the prestigious Ladies of Laughter 2021 Newcomer Award, and she was named one of New York City's top 100 inspiring businesses during the pandemic. I really hope you enjoy Zarna and her comedy, which was definitely brought out in our conversation. So I appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much. If you're liking this content and these podcasts, please feel free to leave a review, download, and share with your friends. In addition, representation, inclusion, and safe spaces are really important to me. I'm an anti-racist and anti-oppression educator and consultant. If I can support you or your organization in creating safe spaces in your social justice work, let's connect and let's see if we can create some safe spaces together. So feel free to connect with me at theinclusivescreenwriter.com or at Instagram at theinclusivescreenwriter. All right, let's take a listen to Zarna, friends. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Inclusive Storytelling Podcast. I am so happy to be here. I'm Ashwini Prasad, and I am here with Zarna Garg. Now, she is amazing. Remember, this podcast is about the arts and not just entertainment. And so comedy is definitely part of the arts. So Zarna, I do this with all my guests because I don't want to mess up who they are. Go ahead and introduce yourself to our audiences.
Hi, namaste everybody. Namaste to all your listeners and viewers. I'm Zarna Garg. I'm a screenwriter, I'm a producer, and I'm a stand-up comedian. I produce comedy, I produce long-form TV shows, and I have a movie in development. And I'm the brown auntie in charge, yelling at everybody at all times.
I love it. And I'm so proud of you and all your successes. I can't wait to see it. All of it that you mentioned, with your writing and the content that you're producing. So in terms of what does the Indian auntie mean? What is that? You're also like the Indian mom. Tell us more what this means.
So I think Indian mom and Indian auntie is exactly what it means. It's a nosy, overbearing woman, and unapologetic. I am at least unapologetic about all the things that I believe in. I don't really, we Indian people have our own set of priorities. If you look broad generally, of course, there's exceptions to everything. But generally, the things that we value, value food. The things that we consider central to our culture, to our heritage. I have taken charge to lead the charge on preserving all of that.
I love it. Right. Yeah, there's definitely always something shared. We're definitely not a monolith and we're all different, but there's definitely shared things. And I love how you kind of play onto what comedy is, like the exaggeration of people and things. And that's what you're doing with your monikers of the Indian mom and the Indian auntie. For those that don't know, there is kind of this running joke within, I would say, many Indian families and in the culture that, yeah, exactly what you're saying. You kind of have this nosy auntie who goes in and gives you advice and you don't really know, like, you really related to them? Are they really an auntie? Right. And and if you go to Never Have I Ever, there is in there where they mention how the aunties are non-blood relatives who act like relatives.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we've lost track. We're so many, no one knows who's related to whom anymore. We're all uncle and auntie to each other. You're either beta and beti. If you're young, you're beta to everybody. If you're older, you're uncle and auntie. And it kind of works because it's a term of respect. You give the elderly people a little bit of respect, and it's all kind of generic in that we're kind of related somehow, somewhere. So it's fine.
Exactly. No, it is great. And what I love, community now, for better or for worse, what I do love for it, because there's sometimes the gossip gets to me too much, let's be honest. But what I do love is that we have this, like, exactly, community. Everybody is a child. Everybody's either a cousin, even though they're not blood related, but they could be your brother or a sister or cousin. Cousins grow up as brother and sister. And then everybody else is either auntie, uncle, or grandma, grandpa.
Yep, completely.
Yeah,
Agreed.
part of the family and part of respect.
Yeah.
Exactly. And people need to check out your comedy, and we'll talk about where we can see you later on. But you definitely highlight that and you bring that out to folks in the most hysterical ways. I absolutely love it. As a comedy writer, I love it, and I love that you also are producing your own content, right? This is real. This is your life, how you're showing and preserving different items within the community that you're doing for yourself, which is great. So I want to touch on, Zarna, how do we get here? I want to hear a little bit about your story, about how you have gotten into comedy, because it is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I was a stay-at-home mom for 16 years. I am a New York State licensed lawyer. So I practiced for a little while. I'm an Indian immigrant mom in America, with no family nearby. So once I had my first kid, it was like a shock. It's a lot of work raising kids, by the way, to all your listeners. It's a lot of work and a lot of sacrifices. Happy sacrifices, but sacrifices nevertheless. So for a long time, I was home and, I really wanted to go back to work. It was something that was pulling on me. And once my youngest got into kindergarten, I was like, itching to figure out the next steps. I didn't think I should go back as a lawyer. I was really bad. I mean, really bad. All my clients are in jail. I was the first one. I would go to the judge. I was like, just take him. We both know he's guilty. Just
Oh, goodness.
go.
You're so
Bye.
funny.
No, but you know what I mean? Like, I didn't feel like that was the right fit for my life and for my skill set. But what I was trying to find what I could do and add value in a way that I'm hitting a rare space. So, for example, since you talk about storytelling a lot, I realized that the Indian stories that were being told in Hollywood in particular seemed to be very dark and heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And no one was really taking the lighter touch to it. Like it felt rare. Mindy
Mm-hmm.
Kaling, listen, Mindy Kaling does it, and she's amazing, amazing, big fan. But I don't think she represents the immigrant Indian experience. So somehow in America, the immigrant person has become like really sad and outcast, and that's not really my experience. So I was like, maybe I should go down a way in a road that brings my personal experience to life, and maybe other people will relate to it. After all, this is a nation of immigrants. And, I thought there has to be a wider range than just what Hollywood is putting out right now. And also, 3-4 years ago was peak Trump years. There's a lot of anger, a lot of hostility in the country. And I felt like no one was really providing that happy immigrant voice. There was so much about don't do this, Americans are bad. And I really wanted to step in and remind people in America how good they are. There's a reason people like me and our families leave things behind and come here.
Mm-hmm.
But no one seemed to be speaking to that. So that's what got me started on like, what can I do? How can I start? And starting with my own story of immigration and how I got here felt like the most natural, obvious starting point. And that became the basis of my first screenplay that I wrote.
Wonderful. And I like what you're saying, right? Yes, there's things that are kind of common or similar within people within a community, but there's also, we're not a monolith, so there's many other truths. And what I understand what you're saying. I feel like, the controversy, like, about Apu on The Simpsons. And I remember growing up, I would always really just be like seeing my culture, seeing people who look like me in these in these exaggerated stereotypes that were definitely not coming from a community member. They were coming from somebody else, because how you exaggerate is very different than other people or white writers, because they don't know the culture, they don't know the people. They're playing off of other stereotypes that they have been introduced to and are perpetuating it. And so, yeah, you're
Right.
doing a huge service in terms of moving people, moving the needle, and I think also highlighting a little bit of a culture, right? And different truths that people have, which I think is absolutely fascinating. So,
Thank you.
as lawyers, you're kind of always writing. Were you always a writer? You know, as a kid, were you writing, or like when you were growing up, were you the jokester and people would be like, "Oh, here's Honor, you know, let's give her some attention." How was
I
that?
mean, I was always called, I was always told I'm funny. And my whole life I was told. But if you're an Indian woman, like you, that means nothing.
Mm.
Like that's worse than telling somebody you can play a guitar in India. No one cares. You know what I mean? Like, okay, if the kid is like doing math or science or some playing chess, yes. So who cares about a guitarist or a comedian? Nothing. And I never thought of myself as a comedian, but my whole life I was told, oh, she's funny, she's naturally this, she's that. And I never knew what to do with it until the last 2 years. Like, honestly, the thought that I could do comedy didn't even occur to me. Is that crazy?
Wow.
And the fact
Wow.
that there's so few Indian women comedians in the world, like I'm talking
Mhm.
about Indian from India. I'm not,
Right.
it's rare in America too. Even among the first and second generation, it's rare.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if you think of Indian women in India or immigrant women, somehow we just don't think of comedy as something we do.
Right, right. No, I agree. Because there's not a lot that are out there. Like, you know, you can kind of, if you kind of put them on one finger, especially when you look at North America now, there may be comedians in Bollywood for sure and other parts of the world, but like really big names or recognizable names, there's not a lot. And definitely, you know, I can't say that I lived in a space, and I'll only speak from my experience, where a female comedian and that journey into that world would have been supported.
Right. I mean, I think, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure how my own journey will unfold, to be really honest with you. It's been
Mhm.
great so far.
Yeah.
So far, the community has been nothing but supportive. But as my jokes spread, as my name grows, and the idea of an Indian woman holding a mic and challenging cultural conventions is out there, I get a lot of heat too. I have my share of haters. I have my
Mm.
share of people saying, this is not our culture. Who does she think she's become? She's not white. So I don't know. The journey is a mystery for me too.
Yeah.
India as a country is unforgiving of people who make jokes about their culture, like people go to
Mm-hmm.
jail for it.
Mm-hmm.
So remains to be seen. But I do think that there is a huge market. I mean, how can we not make fun of our mother-in-laws? It's unthinkable. They are the world's most perfect villain. I talk about how when Marvel is designing their super villains, they think of the Indian mother-in-law.
It's so funny.
The fact that nobody does this is just completely baffling to me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And and even though you're playing off stereotypes, what I appreciate, Zarna, you know, it is your truth, but at least it's coming from you. I
yeah,
appreciate that it's, and whether you like it or not, that's everybody's decision, right? But we are sharing a truth. And I've had this conversation more than once where people are like, well, this is, you know, like Indian matchmaking. Some people don't like it. And I actually understand why. But I
yeah,
think what's important though is, you know, you can speak out against it, but just know that it's a truth for other people as well.
yeah.
And I love that you were able to take these stereotypes and tropes, but it's coming from you. And I find them funny. I think they're
Thank you.
hilarious. And you
Thank
actually
you.
have a good relationship with your mother-in-law, don't you?
But listen, the world is like what the world is. She didn't speak a word of English. She couldn't speak a word of English. And this year she called me and she's like, I have an agent.
No.
Yeah, not no, yeah, because she's like, she follows me on every platform just like everybody else, and
Yeah.
she pretty much stalks me, and I tell her, like, can you stop stalking me? And she's like, I'm not stalking you. I go, you only follow one account. At least follow Priyanka Chopra something, right?
Something.
I go live on Instagram or TikTok, and the first person to log on is with my mother-in-law.
She has an alert.
I'm like, can you get off? I want to talk about you.
I love it. I love it. That's great.
Yeah.
So I wonder, because your children were growing up, and when your child, especially your youngest, goes to kindergarten, it's kind of like, okay, what do I do now? Like, I got them to this point. Now they're going to be gone for a few hours, Monday through Friday, typically, pre-COVID,
Yeah.
right? So you kind of have this time back. So what was there, like an inciting incident, and I'm using the screen terms right now, but was there something that led you to be like, you know what, let me try this, let me do some videos, let me get my voice out? Or was it kind of just this accumulation of like, well, let me try it? But I'm interested in knowing, when the start was. Like, I have my story of when I knew I was going to start writing stories about those that have been erased from history. Is there something similar for you?
So my daughter knew that I wanted to work. She's 18 now, but 2 years ago, she knew that I was really dying to go back to work. And I was struggling with what to do. And, and I really had a feeling that maybe it's too late for me to start something. I'm 40 something. I didn't really think, I don't know. I felt like when you've been a stay-at-home mom for as many years as I have, the one thing that I find is undeniable, and I don't know if others will relate, but I think they might, is that you're completely stripped of your confidence of integrating back into the workflow. When you spend as many, like 16, 17 years is a long time to do something from morning to night, and to not be connected with any sort of commerce. Like my only job during those years was to take care of my kids and pay the bills. Like, I never asked anybody to pay me. I didn't even know what that felt like for so many years. So I had lost so much confidence over those years, and my daughter knew that I was really struggling. So she reached out for my birthday, reached out to like over 100 people and said, can you text me a 1 or 2 line message or memory for my mom? And literally every text she got back was like, your mom's funny. She made me laugh. She made me get through this time and that time. And she put all those notes together for me. And when I read the notes and I realized the impact my humor has had without me even trying, that's when it became clear to me. And my daughter is like, Mom, you have to do something with this. And then I did what every normal person does. I Googled it. I was like, jobs for funny people. Like, what do funny people do for work? I literally started from the lowest bottom basement, something that every one of us can do. And I was like, and stand-up comedy popped up, and I was like, that's a job? Like, really? It had never occurred to me that you do this for money.
Yeah.
And that it's a real job and it's a real art form. And like, I was living in my own la la land under a rock, raising my kids, thinking, oh, Seinfeld can do it. Men can do it. White men can get on a stage. Like, it never occurred to me that I could do it. But then as I took one step and another step, and I realized, I was like, oh my God, like literally it was like uncovering one door after another. And, yeah.
Wow. I really appreciate you sharing that truth. Your truth. It's amazing. It's also like, wow, this little person that you helped raise also helped open a new door as she's getting older and transitioning. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And what validation? People are like, oh, don't seek external validation. Sometimes it really helps to have, especially as a stand-up comedian, right? Like, yeah, you want that external validation, and to hear it from people who love you. And this consistent message. Now that's very interesting. That is very interesting.
It was a pivotal moment for sure, because to read 100 notes at a time like that from people who knew me when I was 5 years old to people who met me when I was 45 years old, it's like a whole range, right?
Right.
And it became an undeniable like echo back from the universe. And then I felt like if I still don't do something with this, then no one can help me,
Yeah.
And luckily, Google knows.
Yeah, Google told you where to go.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, Google it. And it's so fascinating to me also, right? Like these barriers that we can create for ourselves, or that if we're not exposure, we don't see people. This is why, our work, I feel like, is so important, to be able to show other people that you can be out there, that you can be a screenwriter, you can be a podcast host, you can be in front of the camera, you can be in front of a crowd and make them laugh, and be a stand-up comedian. Because like you just said, you'd only seen a certain group, so you really didn't have anything to click once you saw all those notes to be like, well, let me give this a try. And I mean, it's been so successful for you. How many millions of views? How many followers? I mean, it's just absolutely amazing.
I'm shocked. I'm like, really? I mean, some of the things that get huge numbers is literally me yelling at my kids. People want to see this.
I
guess I don't hold back. I don't hold back. Like, I have no shame in telling my kids that they're never allowed to be artists.
Yeah,
okay. I'm an artist, and I'm the first one to be like, that is not on your plate. Absolutely not.
That's so funny, but it's your truth. I mean, they say comedians need to take risks. And for me, one of the most funniest videos, and I still go back to it, is this past winter when there was, as the Met was closed, they were still cleaning the streets. And you in your snow gear climbed up, and you were like, we don't have this in India. So it seemed like it was I know snow gear is not new to you per se, and being from New York for so many decades, but it seemed like maybe climbing this hill of snow and sliding down it might have been something new for you, and it was absolutely hysterical.
Well, I was trying to figure out why people do this. Like, I get a lot of feedback from my followers and like comments and things. And I get a lot of like, Auntie, you should try it. I have a huge team following, right? So I'll be like, Auntie, you should try it. It's a lot of fun. So that day I decided, you know what? Let me see what the fuss is about sliding down this thing.
Sledding. You were sledding. Yeah.
And it was fun.
It is. It's so much fun. It's exhausting because you also have to climb up and get to.
Oh, yeah. Oh, are you kidding? I don't know if you saw one of the follow-up ones. I called my son. I'm like, okay, come down now, pick up this thing. I'm not carrying the whole thing up. I mean, it's hard enough that I have to go up. Now I have to carry the sled up. So I make my kids go up and down with me.
Yeah. I've seen them follow your family as you follow, and they're in your videos sometimes, and it's great. So I want to ask this as we kind of, continue on. I'm interested in your journey, but really quickly, how has it been with your family? From now mom is now, pursuing this life as a stand-up comedian and as a comedic writer. How has that transition been?
My kids and my husband are my biggest supporters. So it's been great on the one hand. They're very happy to see me happy and to see me fulfilling my destiny in some way. It has to be destiny because there's no other explanation for why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, there's no clear path. Like, it's not like I went to comedy school. I didn't even go to screenwriting school. I took one class. Mm-hmm. And I started writing. So I do believe there is a hand of God somewhere. But of course, do they miss having mom around? I used to be the mother who was making a hot meal 3 times a day and was obsessing over, you need this and you need this. And you think you're going to date a white girl, like you're going to end up eating a bagel. I would yell at my boys all the time, and I would be like, I'm going to addict you to eating puris and rotis. So there's no way you will marry somebody North Indian. And now I'm like, okay, eat a banana. I'm busy. Don't call me. So it's bittersweet, but I think overall they're very happy that I have found something that's making me so happy. Mm-hmm. And they see the effect of it. We'll be walking down, like just strolling in Central Park like we always do. And I have little kids. Like, the shock even now that I have is that itty bitty little kids will come run up to me and say, we came to America for the electricity.
No way.
I get like little kids have watched because my comedy is 100% family friendly. I do corporate shows and everything is network friendly. So a lot of my shows get pushed around to grandmas and kids, and like, you don't know. So me and my kids will be playing somewhere, and like the kids will come running to me and be like, can we make a TikTok with you? Can you do a little TikTok dance with me or whatever? It's
Wow.
shocking to my kids. It's like, what is happening? You know what I mean? And sometimes the kids come up to me, they're like, can you yell at me? I have had TikTokers.
No.
TikTokers with millions of followers. I mean, like massive accounts will DM me and be like, can you please yell at us?
It's working for certain groups of people, it's working. And I want to tell my audience, Zarna was going into comedic mode. She loves white people. She loves all people.
Oh yeah, of course.
It was a joke. It was one of her jokes.
Come
And
on.
we could spend hours talking about what's laughable and what's not, but yeah, I mean, but this is part of the persona. This is part of the comedy that you have, right? It is that kind of doting mom and bringing in life experiences and yelling and doing that, and also now doing physical stunts as of this winter.
Yes.
And I have New York on my phone because I'm always checking the weather because, I never know when I might want to jump off, especially and visit now that COVID is hopefully subsiding. It's interesting too because being able to see your world and where you are in like Central Park and you're over at the Met and doing all these different things, it's absolutely wonderful. So I want to dig in a little bit, especially with inclusivity and comedy being so integral because it's part of the arts. I could absolutely consider it. I'm a comedy writer as well, and for me it's like, I kind of follow this. I saw this YouTube video from Phoebe Waller-Bridge not too long ago, and her friend, as she was helping her write one of her first scripts, was like, write it down. It doesn't matter how exaggerated it is, how absurd it is, just write it down. And that's what I do, absurd humor. And you play with it, but when you first write it down, just write that down. And as you're writing your content, because this is you, like you have in a very short amount of time built this brand, built your content, and it continues getting better. What is like a typical night for you, and who's in the audience? Who are your peers? I'm interested to see, who's around you at this time as we've gone through kind of Me Too, Time's Up, and had serious conversations, including comedy. And, we've had people like Sarah Silverman say, I'm now, I'm retracting what I said before, or like, now I have a new insight on the role of different people within comedy or women identifying people. So I really want us to know a little bit about a typical night and who you're hanging out with. We can check your Instagram, but I want to hear from you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just going to now pretend the clubs are open because we're almost there.
Yeah.
Because the Zoom scene was what the Zoom scene is. It was a bit of an anomaly, even though I launched a whole Zoom comedy business and I continue to do it for a lot of tech companies, medical schools, pharmas, you name it.
Yeah.
But the club scene is where you see who is really supporting, because they have to buy a ticket, they have to show up, they have to buy drinks, whatever's involved in the deal. It started with a few of my friends, mom friends, who were just so excited that one of their friends was doing this, but it spread like wildfire. Like, so the first open mic I did about a year and a half-ish ago, I was supposed to bring 5 people to get 5 minutes on stage. And at that time, my Instagram was barely like 100 people. It was like a private Instagram page with like 100 followers.
Right.
So I remember putting a flyer up saying, oh, I'm going to be up on stage and just talk about like Indian stuff. Please join us. And I thought, if I can get 5 people, I'll get 5 minutes. That day, 95 people showed up.
No. Oh my goodness. Did they give you 95 minutes?
I would have died. I was like, when I was standing there and I saw people, and then somebody's like, I drove in from New Jersey. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I'm only getting 5 minutes, guys. Like, and I understood the excitement. They were so excited that somebody was doing something that was so relatable to them. Like if you think of stand-up comedy otherwise, we all enjoy it, right? All these years we've enjoyed the comedy of Chris Rock or like Sarah Silverman or Tina Fey or whoever. It's not really relatable to the Desis, if you think about it. It's not really our life. Like we don't really date that way. We don't really treat sex the way sex is treated. Clearly somebody's having sex. I'm not
let's
saying
look at the population of India, right?
but we don't treat that subject the way it's treated, especially in a comedy club. So it started with a few of my friends, but it kind of just ignited. It became a tsunami. Like before I could say anything, it just grew and grew all over. And then it became like, it went beyond the Indian women showing up to, I'm going to bring my Jewish friends, I'm going to bring my Italian friends. Or like I started posting flyers like in my kids' school, for example, and now you're open to like any population, and then people started coming in, like Black families would come up to me and be like, oh my God, we have mean aunties just like that. It's such a thing. So it kind of grew very organically. And now it's like anybody who enjoys good, clean comedy is somebody who might consider buying my ticket, who will come up to my shows. People who enjoy, like I pride myself on writing very high quality jokes. I slave over it. I'm a writer at the heart of everything. So and people know that. They expect that from me. It's not get up on stage and like, I'm so cute. No, you're going to get a joke and I'm going to shock you and I'm going to surprise you. And I take pride in having that ability and in developing that skill. So that's where we are now. And now people, they read reviews. I mean, if you go to my website, I've got a review page so long that you'll get tired scrolling, and we can still keep going because I've put out a lot of work.
Yeah.
And that just attracts. And, the truth is that everybody has an Indian friend, an Indian doctor or a teacher or a, being Indian is special in a way, but in a way it's not so exotic. It's like you can be white, Black, Asian, Hispanic, whatever. You probably have an Indian person in your life. So I think my jokes and my stories become very, if nothing else, you're eating Indian food.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I'm like, okay, I think in New York, yes, you'd have an Indian friend. There's definitely other parts within, I would speak for, the United States and Canada where maybe that's not the truth, but definitely in New York, or at least like you said, you're eating Indian food, most likely. If you haven't, you need to eat.
Has touched it. Something somewhere has brought a little piece of India to you, which makes my material relatable.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fascinating that you're like, all these people from other cultures are like, yes, we can relate. And it just speaks to the power of representation. And you're not speaking for all, over 1 billion of us, right? No, that's not what you're doing. You're speaking a truth, and it's relatable to a lot of people and not just Indian people.
No, I mean, I get that all the time. Like, I think the Middle Eastern, if you think of stand-up comedy, it's a very Western construct. Like I don't know, but I can hazard a guess that no woman in Afghanistan is taking a stage and making fun of her husband. It's just not going to happen. Our culture does not encourage that type of behavior. I've spoken to Chinese women and they will say the same thing. In Far East, it's just not something we do. So for the first time, they see somebody that looks like me and sounds like me. And a lot of my stories are relatable to that whole part of the world. The mother-in-law piece, even the kids, like the things we let our kids do or not do. So it's kind of opened up a whole Pandora's box of like possibilities now in terms of comedy and comedic material that's up for grabs.
Yeah. And I think about, who's seeing you and these little kids that are running up to you and saying your lines, like, who are they now able to see, right, in these places, and what's going to happen in 10, 15 years? Like, because that little, who knows what that little girl will be 20 in 10, 15, 20 years old, right, in 10, 15 years. So I think it's amazing. And what you're doing, and it's working, right? Right now, it's incredibly working with everything that you're saying in terms of your opportunities and the writing and movie development. Like, these are amazing things. These are not little things at all. And so I wonder, you're in New York, so this is kind of amazing, but I wonder, have you felt any resistance, or has it been very welcoming? Because you work with other female comedians as well, but I'm wondering the scene in general, real talk, how is it?
So people are very, very kind to my face.
Mm-hmm.
They're generally kind, but no one is going to share a piece of their business. That's just the nature of being a business person. I personally don't wait around. I'm not good at waiting. Patience is not my thing. There's a state of the world where I could have done 5 minutes and open mic here and there, and then waited for the top clubs of New York to book me. And I really thought, I'm already starting at 45. Like, this is not going to happen for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just started producing my own shows.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you know what? Whatever it is, whatever the learning process is, the learning curve is, I'll have to do it if I want to have a career in this space. And if I believe in it, like, the more I realized that no one like me does this, the more it became clear to me that I cannot waste a minute and I need to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
People are very nice to me, but it's all driven by the fact that I'm constantly proving myself at one level above where I was a month ago even.
Right.
So
right.
If I get a spot today at a big club, it's not because they're nice to me. It's because I sold out Caroline's multiple times.
Right.
So now they're forced to recognize the quality of my work. I just won Ladies of Laughter 2021. Now, that is the defining women's stand-up competition in America. You may or may not like me, but you can't deny the fact that I won when I was pitched against the best of the best this year.
Right.
So, I think that I think as women, and especially as South Asian women, we are so programmed to ask ourselves, like, does that person like me? And how is it? And blah, blah, blah. I kind of just bypassed all of that. I'm here to do business. Like, I have my kids at home who kind of have to pretend to like me.
Yeah, right. And your husband then has to also like you. Right.
Exactly. So I don't need any more of that. Like, I need to do business. I need spots at clubs so more people can see my work. I need, I need to make content that will get spread. So I'm very clear about my mission and my agenda. I'm an artist and I'm a businesswoman. But the more you prove yourself at every threshold, the more doors open for you. And that's just the only way, I think, for a brown woman. I don't know any other path. Like, we're not people who hang out at bars and, like, it's not what we do. I mean, I'm a mom. Yeah. I don't even hang out at the clubs. The minute my set is over, I'm home.
Yeah.
Already it's a late night job. It's hard enough. So I'm very laser focused on what is it that I'm here to do. How am I going to stick with the plan, do it, and get out?
Well, it's working, Zarna. It is absolutely working. Yeah, and congratulations on all these accolades. I feel like every time I turn around, there's another new thing that you are winning, you're pitching, you're getting.
Well, but I will tell you that I want to encourage all your listeners and viewers to throw themselves out there. That's a habit of mine. I enroll in every competitive endeavor. I mean, I'm not going to post my losses. It's my Instagram page or my Facebook page. I'm not going to highlight my losses. But if you win, it's another feather in your cap. But I'm constantly looking for opportunities to prove myself and throwing myself in the mix, because it's the only way I think I will have a career in this. And I encourage all women to do it. It's one of the few things that if somebody reaches out to me privately for advice, I always tell them, don't shy away from the fight. If you lose, you lose. No one cares.
Yeah.
No one cares that you lost. You tried. The victory is in the trying. And then let's say you tried for 5 things and you won one. You won one thing.
Yeah, it's huge. That's huge. It's a huge celebration.
It will be a part of your story forever. So that's the one thing that I like as a message. I like to say to especially women, that don't wait for people to call you and all of that. Just throw yourself in the mix. You may subtract yourself. Believe me, my mother-in-law is like, they think you're a good comedian. Tell them to ask me for a review.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. You're inspiring me, and it is just about putting yourself out there. And I think, this industry, right? Let's just be real about it. It is about proving yourself. The sponsors won't look at you unless you have at least 10,000 followers, right? And so this is the name of the game. And I get frustrated with it. I'll be honest, I can't tell you how many times that I've wanted to walk away and just really seriously thought about it, right? And we have real conversations, these are conversations that people have had with themselves, no matter how high up or how well known they are. And we've had these moments of like, oh gosh, okay, is this really it? And the thoughts of leaving are abundant, but you inspire me. And yes, you got to put yourself out there and just start producing, and knowing that whatever you put out there is going to be good enough for that time, and it's just going to get better the more you do it.
No one started out perfect, not even Spielberg.
Yeah.
He made his mistakes. He probably still makes mistakes.
Yeah.
It's the journey. And you just don't know what will resonate. I'm telling you, I make jokes, I create content. I can never predict what will hit it big. I can't. Yeah. I think every time I have uploaded something thinking this one's going to hit it big, nothing.
And then nothing else that you put very little thought into gets like so many views, and you're like, oh wow, okay.
I mean, I'm constantly baffled, but you know what? I would have never figured it out if I wasn't constantly producing and uploading.
Yep.
If I was waiting for the right moment, I would still be waiting.
Yeah, exactly. Keep doing it, and yeah, definitely for other people, just put yourself out there. Like I got nervous when I was doing my podcast. I was like, oh gosh, I'm gonna make it a podcast as well, and just being on video. It's like, okay, but here we go, right?
There you go.
Do it. you just do it. Yeah, that's a wonderful message, especially for those that are women identifying, non-binary, and young boys and men. Like, yeah, just do it. And I, what's fascinating to me, you and I are part of same South Asian groups. And, constantly I'm in rooms with different people, and they're like, gosh, I felt like there was no other South Asians doing this.
Yeah.
And they're shocked to see that there's thousands of us. It's still a small, in terms of the population, but they're like, I really thought that there were not anybody like me. And it's like, gosh, no, that's not true at all. There's a lot of us. And I half joke with the people I've known, with some of them that aren't younger, that, they lived full lives already. They were doctors, they were lawyers, they were writers. And now they're like, okay, I want to be a comedian. I want to be a screenwriter. I want to be a director, and they've been building their life around it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so thrilled to see it. I'm thrilled to see as more of the community evolves and we find each other, and thanks to social media, it's easier to find each other.
Yeah,
it's been amazing, and people are putting out such amazing work.
Oh, so amazing work. Yes. Yeah, 100%. And you got to try. Definitely. That's where it is. And, also take criticism, right? Whatever words you want to use. And then just make sure it's coming from people that are truly loving you. And then for me, it's like, when I read a lot of scripts and I'll give feedback, but I'm also like, okay, look, and I want it back too. But it's like, let me sit with you for half an hour and let's talk through my comments and what you can do to improve. And not everybody has to take all of my comments, but in the pieces that are really like other people are saying the same things, what do we do to be better? So it's not just about giving ideas out, but it's also going, what can I do to also help you be better in XYZ and whatever you're pursuing? And that's the power of community, which has no ethnic or any boundaries. So if you had to give one piece of advice to somebody who is out there listening, and you have so many wonderful followers, but if you had one advice, of somebody that's like, well, I want to pursue a career similar to yours, what would you say to that person?
The time is now. It's not tomorrow. It's not when this happens. It's not when that happens. Take even the most baby step. At could be Google jobs for funny people. Start there, people, if you're nervous. But whatever that first baby step is, don't waste a minute. Just do it. There is no other way to start. It's like learning to swim. You cannot sit by the edge of the water and think one day that the water will be right. If you want to swim, you got to get in the water. That's it. And I really believe that the time could not be better. People are much more open to hearing different points of view. Studios are much more inclined to giving people opportunities. Seize the moment. You don't know what it will be tomorrow. So I encourage everybody, if it's in the back of your mind, take a class, buy the book, How to Write Inclusively. It's a start. Everybody starts somewhere. The book could be your start. So whatever it is, take that step and start. The moment is now. It's not tomorrow.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. I started this as well, and it's all new, and I'm still learning, and there's days of frustration, of course, and there's days where you're like, okay, but it's true. You have to start. And it's amazing now, right? With different groups, Clubhouse, TikTok, especially, that's just blowing up. The amount of people you're going to meet. And for me, the amount of people that will lift you up, you have those that won't either. You just got to just realize that's just part of it. But the people who lift you up, and I love this, this was from one of the Clubhouse groups that I was in that was focused primarily with and had Black women, but they said, be with the people who speak well of you and rise you up when you're not in the room as well. And you will find those people. I guarantee you.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of great people that want to just be there. And they may not be able to be there, once a week as a coaching call, but they will be there for 5 minutes to lift you up or give you a quick advice. And of course, our learnings of what not to do and to get you there faster.
Yes.
So I really want to talk about this as we kind of start wrapping up. You are booked at a very famous New York City club that's coming up, and if folks haven't already, we're going to be telling you where folks can connect with you. But you had a really emotional, wonderful reaction. It made me cry when you found out you're going to be headlining this particular event. So help our listeners understand. Was it winning one of these contests that got you there? And then let's talk about what's going on in about in a few days, not a few, but several days here.
Yeah, so I'm going to be headlining at Caroline's on Broadway, which is the nation's premier comedy club in New York City. Luckily, I live here. They do a show called Indian Made in India. That's what the show is called. It's part of the New York Comedy Festival. When I first learned about this show about 2 years ago, I went up to them and I said, it's a show called Made in India, and you have 4 male Indian comedians. Why is there not even a single female? I mean, India is a female majority country. And they said to me, we would love to have a female. We don't know any. And I was like, that can't possibly be true. I honestly am still stunned at the idea that not too many women do it. I mean, when they say they can't find any, they also mean who can perform at that level. I understand that. They can't take a complete newcomer and put them on the stage if they're not ready for that moment.
Sure.
Because it's also an overwhelming moment for the performer. It's not just about getting the opportunity. You've got to be able to deliver, right? So the booker said, trust me, if we could find somebody who wanted to do it and who was preparing for it, we would love to. And I was like on such a mission to figure out why it was the way it was. And I kept pushing back. And like after a minute, he said, you know what, why don't you do it? And I was like, me? I've only been doing it for a few months. And he's like, you can do it. Why don't I give you 3 months to prepare and you do it? And literally, I compressed years of learning in those 3 months because I just went like a mad raging bull preparing for it. And that was our show last year in 2019, in 2020, February. And it was sold out within days. Caroline's announced it. My heart was like out of my chest thumping when the link came out, when the show link, I was like, what? This is my life. And then like tickets start, then I got an email, we sold 50 tickets, 50, another 50. In 3 days, they were like, we're fully sold out. I couldn't believe. But it's testimony to what is possible if you throw yourself out there. Like, I didn't know who these people were, who were coming, who bought the tickets. There was no, I've never really spent any money on marketing. I don't really like, I'm still new. I will develop all those channels, but I'm not there yet. But that it was, I mean, I can, my social media has all the reaction videos and all. It was so emotional. My God, we had an amazing show. And at the end of the show, everybody was in tears.
Oh.
And the Caroline staff was like, we thought the show went well. I said they're happy tears. It's happy tears, not bad tears. I had elderly people lined up around the stage saying, people who were like now grandparents in America who moved 50, 60 years ago, who said, for 50 years, we laughed at jokes we didn't understand. For 50 years, if you're like an Indian person from India, you might watch Friends and you might watch all these shows, but it's not really something you're relating to at some level, right? Think of that life and think of the life that an average Indian person has in America. So they were like, to watch comedy that reflects our life, I literally had elderly people holding my hand and crying.
Oh.
And and then I started crying because, give me any excuse.
Yeah. Yep. It's
any
the extremes, the laughs to the tears, but these are good tears. Yeah.
But it was very emotional. And then since then, of course, there's been no looking back. I mean, now I'm on a mission myself because I don't think it's right that our point of view is not represented. Why?
Yeah. And, and it's one of these things where eventually you shouldn't be the only one because you represent so many experiences, but you're not talking for the totality, but we should be able to talk about Zarna and so. You shouldn't be the only one out there because there's so much.
And I encourage, as I said, I tell everybody, if you're thinking about it, jump in now. And whatever it is, you may not be a comedian. You may be a cook. You may be a blogger. You may be a podcaster. You may be whatever it is for you. The point is, don't waste time.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yep. Screenwriter, podcaster, author, all these things. And like you're
Whatever
saying, you're a comedian, you are you're a writer as well. We're so multifaceted. And I love what you're saying. Go ahead and out there. And I usually ask my guests my, staple question, which is how do we be more inclusive in our lives? But Zarna, I'm not going to ask that because I feel like this entire conversation has been your answer to that. So you are going to be performing over at Caroline's, the premier comedy club, and I'm sure it's not going to be the first time. So I also want folks, my audience, to be able to find you. So how can we get a hold of you, Zarna? Where do we find these jokes?
I am at Zarna Garg, ZarnaGarg. On Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, and my website, zarnagarg.com, has everything neatly organized. My show schedule, my jokes, my reviews, my Zoom shows, everything is neatly organized there. You can find me anywhere. And I look forward to hearing from everybody.
Oh, so amazing. I also asked this question to folks, how can we support you, Zarna?
You already supporting me by having me as a guest. So thank you very much for that. And, I'm truly a comedian at heart. You want to support me, just laugh at my jokes.
I love it.
Comedians, you want to drive a comedian completely crazy, don't react to their joke. Right. I mean, money cannot do what that will do to a comedian. It's like, why? How did they not laugh? What did I say wrong? Like, and if you want to support my work further without paying a dime, share my name around. It is a difficult world out there to get your name passed around. If you like my work, feel free to share it, comment, like. Every bit helps. Every little bit of engagement that we get as creators from our followers, from our fans, it helps us. If nothing else, it helps us keep going. Because otherwise, we don't know if you're finding our jokes funny. Unless you tell us, we don't know.
We don't know how our content is hitting for you.
Yeah.
Zarna, you are absolutely amazing, and everything you've done throughout your entire life, I applaud you. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you
me.
so much. Thank you for having me. I love what you're doing. Love the podcast. So honored to be a guest, and I look forward to seeing so much more from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Zarna.
Bye. Namaste.